Hello, everybody. Beetle Man here, flying at you at not quite the speed of light. Close. Not quite there, but maybe 90% the speed of light. Faster than an ion engine will propel you at present state, anyway. Anywho. It's been a while. And you have to pardon my creaky chair as I move around. It's been a while. And I apologize, but school's been in the way. I do quite mean in the way. Most of my schooling just gets in the way of anything productive I have to do. But unfortunately that seems to be the way of things. Never let your schooling get in the way of education, right? Something like that. Anyway, I'm back, and we're going to be doing having my second philosophical musings, as it were. This one is going to be on something. First of all, I got to address a little issue or two, and then we're going to go into the topic of free will and my take on it, my current take on it, and from both my different points of view that I have, or that I'm going to try to address it from, rather. The first thing I got to talk about is I know I posted that comment probably 2 months ago or so, a month and a half ago. I don't know how long it's been, maybe longer. I don't know. On necessitarians, Nessie's video on double predestination and necessitarianism and that sort of thing. I posted that comment saying that I would be posting a video soon in response to it, and I never did, and so I apologize for not doing that. Part of the reason was things got in the way. School primarily, it just started taking up time, and university stuff, trying to get it sorted out where I'm going to end up going, which is sorted out now where I'm going, but there's still a lot of just random things I got to take care of. And so basically the logistics still need to be worked out. But on top of that, there were some other issues too. There was the issue that on free will, I didn't feel like I was going to give a very good response, and I don't mean necessarily content-wise, but I just felt like, I don't know, I needed to think about it more, and talking with Nessie about it and thinking about it more and that sort of thing, and discussing the topic with other people, I've come to a conclusion, and I must be honest, the conclusion has been one that is sort of a moment of quote-unquote revelation, you might say. The conclusion was that that free will is like morality. Free will is like morality in the fact that you cannot derive morality from reason. As demonstrated by Hume's ought gap, you cannot logically derive a value from a fact. It's impossible, and rendering that impossible thereby renders the idea that you can have a morality that's reasoned to. Kai Nielsen brings up this point that reason alone, essentially says reason alone won't get you to morality. Even if you've got a good square, head on your shoulders, and you're really objective about it, it still won't. And I mean, he's not the only philosopher to recognize this, obviously. But my revelation, and I put that, I use the term revelation loosely, obviously. But my revelation was that just like you cannot reason to morality, or rather the fact that you can't reason to morality, for most people, does not negate the actuality of morality. Free will is the same way. Libertarian free will is what I'm speaking of, by the way. I'm not speaking of compatibilistic or any other form of free will. I'm speaking strictly of a philosophical libertarianistic view of free will. Is something that can't be reasoned to, as far as I know, and I'm willing to change my opinion, obviously, but it's something that can't be reasoned to. You get stuck. If how can free will be actual if it's incompatible with both determinism and indeterminism? It seems to be the philosopher Peter Van Inwagen has stated that he is worried that the very concept of free will might be absurd. It might be self-contradictory or in some way just untenable, because it's incompatible with these seemingly bivalent principles of if something's not deterministic, then it's indeterministic, and if free will is neither of those, well then it can't be a real thing. Libertarianistic free will. And that was very disturbing to me and very saddening to me and upsetting, because I am a libertarian in regards to free will. But this revelation I had was that basically it's that just because you can't reason to morality doesn't mean that you have to negate the actuality of morality. And in that same way, just because you cannot reason to libertarianistic free will does not mean that it's not actual. And I'm not trying to argue for the actuality of libertarianistic free will. I'm kind of trying to provide a metaphysical framework to start with. And my reasoning for that is somewhat existential and pragmatic, unfortunately. But hear me out. I request. Basically, free will, just like morality, is a starting point, not an ending point. You don't start out with various principles or metaphysical framework or various axioms or anything like that, and then reason to a form of free will or reason to the existence of some form of morality. You start with it, because morality, however objective or subjective it is a essential aspect of who we are and what we are as human beings. You see some sense of morality. As I said, it varies from culture to culture in objectivity and subjectivity, however you look at it. You still see this trend of morality throughout all human cultures, or at least, well, I mean, all of them, now some moralities might seem skewed or you might disagree with or whatever, or systems of morality or whatever, but regardless, they still have a sense of morality. Certain things are right, certain things are unacceptable socially. And likewise, you see this concept of free will in not necessarily such an obvious way of a metaphysical sort of system that people operate from, but you see it in all the systems of ethics, philosophically, as well as politically, as well as in the justice system and systems of the world. This concept that certain things are punishable based on the assumption of libertarianistic free will. All of our ethical, or at least all the ones I'm familiar with, all philosophical ethical systems that I'm familiar with, such as utilitarianism and contractarianism and so forth, various forms of various metaphysical systems for ethics and meta-ethical theory has in there to some extent free will, at least as I've seen, and I could be wrong, obviously, I may be wrong, but you see it as a trend, especially in the justice system. It's more clear to give the demonstration because it's not such an abstract philosophical principle. In our justice system in the United States, as well as westernized cultures across the world and other cultures across the world, the idea that you're responsible for your own actions is very prevalent. In fact, that's a cornerstone of our justice system. And in our just common sense lives of how we deal with other people. We don't punish people for things that they had nothing to do with. We punish people based on things that they did do, and based on the assumption that they had the possibility of choosing to do otherwise. You know, we that's how we charge people, and how we deal with people on just a day-to-day basis. You know, we get angry with people for doing something, and you know, based on this idea that, you know, they didn't have to do that, they just chose to, and it ticks you off if they did something crappy. You say, why didn't you do this, or why didn't you do that, or whatever, you know, and it's just a kind of a cornerstone common sense assumption, if you will. And so in that sense, I think that my justification for this kind of fundamental idea of using libertarianistic free will as a starting point versus an ending point that you reason to, is kind of justified in the same way that morality is justified, or at least in a similar way, is that it permeates society and it's a cornerstone to how we run our society. It'd be crazy if somebody got in court and was charged with something, and the judge asked them, you know, how do you plead, or what's your defense, or whatever, and they said, well, you know, Judge, it wasn't me. I had no choice in the matter. I was fully determined to do this, and I had no choice in the matter. You know, it's not my responsibility. It's the fault of my circumstances and my parents and everything that came before me that determined me to do that up to this point. Or something along those lines. I mean, that would be laughable. The judge, obviously, that wouldn't, you know, hold. And nobody would buy that. And so, you know, in certain senses that can happen, you know, if people were forced to do something or whatever, but in a grand sense, that's not how it works, at least in our justice system. Now, I'm not saying the way we run our justice system is indicative of the ontic actuality of libertarianistic free will. Pardon me. I'm sorry. But what I am saying is that my justification for using libertarian free will as a starting point is in the way that we run our lives in a pragmatic and existential sense. It satisfies seemingly core needs and core aspects of who we are as human beings, as people, and as a culture, both locally and as a globally and historically as well. So that was kind of the revelation / realization that I had, and that's kind of the just standard point of view that I take it from. From a more religious point of view, the view that I would adopt in regards to resolving the free will issue, divine foreknowledge versus free will, that problem that's posed, if God knows all, then how can we be free? I currently adopt a divine mystery view of libertarian free will, as being compatible with God's foreknowledge of everything, God knowing everything, and how that works with our libertarian free will is just, in some sense, the mechanics of that are a mystery, is the view that I take now, and you know, I'm not going to try to debate it anymore. You know, I mean, unless somebody brings up a critical point that I contradicted myself on, I'll reconsider and address that, assuming I have the time and I remember. But you know, I'm not going to debate it. I'm not trying to formalize formal arguments. I'm just giving you my personal reasoning and the realization that I came to. And if you agree, you know, great. If you disagree, you know, great. You know, we can open a dialogue about it. But generally, free will is kind of sort of, for now, off my plate as a topic that I'm considering anymore, because I feel like I've found to me a reasonable and a satisfactory solution to it, and that's, you know, that's the conclusion I've come to. So thank you for listening, and hopefully I'll be posting more of these philosophical musings soon. So thank you for listening, and talk to you later. Beetle Man out.